this is already live and people can already see that we're having this as the fun intro. And
Yeah, I just click go live halfway through. You start halfway through your sentence there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another recording of Tapcaf Transmissions, the podcast that Corey and I run.
Click go live
discussing Star Wars Legends and canon books, typically Legends books, in a book club style format. So for those of you who are new, just a reminder that we don't really read comments throughout this video, but there will be a point at the end where you can put questions in the chat. There's also an email you can send us questions to, which is found down in the description. So if you want to get your thoughts in, that's probably the best way. Anything to say before we get started, Corey?
no, just thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Tapcaf Transmissions, and hope to see you next time.
All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions. My name is Justin, joined as always by my lovely and loving co-host, Corey. How are you today, fine sir?
I'm doing great. I prefer cozy co-host, but
Cozy co-host, okay.
But yes, so we've got a Darth Bane to talk about, and I'm still feeling edgy. I finished this last night.
Were you edging all night?
Justin,
sorry.
We talked about this.
Off stream.
Product hasn't emailed us for months. No.
It's all the edging talk. But yeah, we're talking about Darth Bane Book 2, Rule of Two, which continues the story of Book 1 after, I think, what is it, a 10-year time gap maybe?
Well, we start off like right after, like same day, and then there's a
Right.
10-year gap after a few
Right.
chapters. We were supposed to talk about this book last week, but then there was the Star Wars Squadrons
thing.
at Gamescom thing, so we did a separate live stream of that. The audio didn't make a very good podcast, kind of the
Yeah.
same situation as we had with the Halo Infinite episode.
I'll put a link in the podcast description to the YouTube VOD, though, if you
Yeah.
guys want to check that out.
So that was just us two and former Tapcaf guest Charlie, who did invite me if we ever do a Tapcaf live. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast.
No, I don't think so.
But after another stream that we do once, Charlie, who is the editor and the other guy we work with on X2, one of the gaming channels we do, and Charlie was nice enough to invite me to Tapcaf Live if it happens. So
Yeah.
there's something to look forward to. I have confirmed that if we do a Tapcaf Live, I will be the special guest.
You do have Charlie's permission to show up, which
Yeah.
is nice.
But yeah, so we're doing this week, and then next week I believe we are talking about a little guy named Thrawn.
Yes. Have you bought your copy of the book yet? I'm just trying to find mine.
I haven't, because I was just waiting for the email to come with it, and never did. So
Wow. Kind of rude of Del Rey, but the title is it's a long one. That's why I was looking for my book. It's Star Wars
Thrawn Ascendancy,
Chaos
Chaos
Rising.
Rising, Book 1, The Rising,
Chaos is a Ladder.
The Leavening.
Chapter 1, Part 1. But yeah, so it's a very, very long title. I think there's legitimately the title and 3 subtitles. So that's pretty wild. We will be covering that next week. It's a pretty long book, I think. So hopefully we got lots of time to cover that. And then the week after that, we will be back to Darth Bane with Book 3. And then I don't think we've
Dynasty of Evil.
Yeah. I don't think we've discussed what we'll be doing after that. Have we?
We
Maybe
haven't.
Close to trilogy, perhaps.
Possibly, but we have a little bundle of joy to look forward to, and on top of Charlie,
Yeah.
you're going to be having another kid. So
That's right.
we're
Yeah, still a few. I think Kelsey's 33 weeks. So
yeah.
7 weeks.
But it could take us, considering that this was supposed to be last week, and we're still planning 2 books after this. It could very easily be a few more weeks, and we'll have some topical episodes before then. But we were talking about how at that point we're going to get more into comics to kind of lighten the load on you. And we could do Callista before then.
Honestly,
maybe.
newborn baby is really easy. Like the sleeping part is tough, but like a new puppy is harder. And obviously, like I'm speaking as a man, I obviously can't breastfeed, I've tried. It doesn't work. Uh, but
Poor
so,
Gus.
but like, it's obviously harder if you're have to wake up and do that. So I'm not trying to take away from that, but it's a lot of basically when you get a new kid. At least what we do is we basically just like we just nest up.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm gonna try to take 2 or 3 weeks off from everything, but then after that it should be pretty much back to normal. Yeah. So with that being said, is there any topical news you wanted to discuss? I'm trying to think if we've really gotten anything. Confirmed Mandalorian's coming out in October, which is nice because I was a little worried.
We were going to be doing an episode on the Mandalorian trailer that we were absolutely sure.
Right?
Like I was told by you that you had 100% certainty, definitely coming out that day.
Listen,
this is exactly how I remember the conversation going. Is that not what happened?
No, I relied on the influencers and the insiders, and once again, I was led astray.
And I relied on a specific influencer and outsider.
I don't claim to be either of those things.
You don't claim to be an influencer, but you are. So,
yes.
Like you even went on TikTok. So, come on.
Listen, X2 went on TikTok. It's mostly Charlie's jokes. Anyway, I wonder if we'll actually get a Mandalorian trailer though. Like, it seems kind of weird that they haven't dropped anything yet.
Yeah.
There's been a lot
maybe
of Disney
a teaser
news
beforehand, but
yeah.
I was even watching like Nintendo Direct, maybe see if there was something that was going to drop on that, but it was all Mario.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually like they often will drop stuff during NBA playoffs because there's a lot of people glued to the TV, but ratings are down, so maybe there's just not been a good point for them to drop it. Who knows? And there's been a lot of good and bad news because there's like right now Disney's got I think they're pushing Mulan pretty hard on Disney Plus. And to be honest, like this isn't a cable show. People are on Disney Plus, so it's like already.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to compete with yourself. So they'll probably wait until the Mulan run is down, and then of course there is the unfortunate passing of the actor from Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. So that could have interfered with plans. Hard to tell. But yeah, I'm excited for the season.
Yeah, should be good stuff, and we'll have episodes then. We'll have the long-awaited television overview episode at some point, maybe. We keep wanting to do it and then kind of putting it off because we're that kind of people. But
yeah.
But Darth Bane.
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
I was telling you before the stream that I took one note for this book, and it was getting a headache to own the libs because. Obviously not owning the libs, but it's just like, that meme where it's like doing whatever to own the libs. It's like Darth Bane has this really bad sort of like migraine after experiencing the thought bomb at the end of book 1. And he's like, I could heal myself, but that would be some Jedi shit. So it's like, he's not really having a headache to own the libs. It's having a headache to own the Jedi, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Overall though, this is kind of more of the same as the last book. I don't know whether I would say I enjoyed it more or less. Obviously, a lot more is we follow Xana a lot more in this book, which is kind of a nice change of pace. But on the other hand, we don't get like the same. The last book is interesting because it has like 3 or 4 kind of main sections and big time jumps. We get the first bit where he's on Apatros, then he's with the Sith army, then he's on Korriban, and then eventually he's the last little bit he kind of breaks off from the Sith. This book is, I'd say, has less of a clear kind of different acts like that, but we do get different perspectives. So we've got Darth Bane, we get Farfalla and Johan, and we get Xana. And I say we really actually don't get a whole lot from Bane's perspective.
Yeah.
I guess it's really just the first little bit when he's getting his armor.
Yeah, like Bane doesn't do much of anything in this book other than like we know he wants to make the holocron, but he's been kind of stuck after getting orbalisked on Onderon and Duxon. I guess it's Duxon where he gets the actual orbalisk on them. But then he's like, that's before the time jump. Then he's kind of sitting there getting more covered in orbalisks for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like he just wants to make a holocron, fails at it a bunch of times in 10 years, gets Xana to go get supplies, then he goes and kills some Jedi on Tython. And that's kind of what Bane does. He doesn't really accomplish a huge amount in this.
No, yeah.
So it is really Xana's story, and then I think
He's
next
more
time
just
is
kind of like a
Connor's.
lurking presence, like behind everything that Xana's doing.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Orbalisk armor? Because that's kind of a big thing of Bane's for a while in this book. Obviously, he's got it off by the end, but it's kind of just like, to me, like that's maybe like a bit too much, because he's already like, it's like he's already invincible, super strong, super badass, and he's got like, you know, spooky crabs on him that make him impenetrable to lightsabers.
That's about the edgiest I can take from Star Wars. Like the super anger impenetrable armor. Yeah.
Yeah. I did like how he literally flies from the moon of Duxon to Duxon, though. He's on like the dragon, and he's like, he just like forces it to fly through the brief bit of vacuum. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a big part of the comics and stuff where it's introduced as well, like the joint worlds with Mandalorians and stuff. The Drexels, I think, are they called? Am I getting one of the letters wrong there, maybe? But
sounded right to me.
But yeah, that is there. We talked about this a lot in the last episode, but there's a lot of kind of RPG elements in like in the Darth Bane books where like they do very much read like just an after action report of like a KOTOR battle, and like the classes of Jedi and Sith are there that are usually just taken as a game mechanic.
There's one scene in this especially,
Bane used the Force stasis button was used on me. He
failed his lightsaber to clear all cute actions.
But like Drew Karpyshyn was the lead writer and one of the main game designers on KOTOR, and so you kind of expect like that. Just seems to be kind of what his writing style is.
I mean, I kind of enjoy it, to be honest. Like I think it's fun, but it does take you out of it a little bit, I think.
Yeah, like that's kind of what my takeaway from both of these books so far has been, is that it's a writing style that is fun to read. Like there's cool stuff that happens, but it's also doesn't really. There's not much depth to it, and I don't think it's trying to have much depth to it. It's Angry Man and the Adventures of Edgy Girl. So,
yeah. No, I agree. I do. That's why, like, I kind of did find the Jedi sections of this book to be a little bit almost like refreshing, because I mean the Jedi aren't exactly nuanced either. They're like, especially someone like Farfalla. But it is nice to get away from just like the pure edginess. And I will say Xana is a bit more kind of morally gray than Bane, although she still is evil. Even when she grows up, there are moments where like she kind of maybe not considers leaving Bane's service, but like thinks about what her life would be otherwise. Yeah, which is more realistic than Bane, who's just like mad.
Yeah, and so there's some attempt to give Xana a bit more depth than what she ends up having, because at least Bane, we get that early section of him, like how his background on the mining colony kind of turned him into who he was. Yeah. But with Xana, she gets upset about the loss of her cousins and then the bouncy guys, but then she's with Bane for like a day at most, and she like blows up Tomcat's hand, technically to protect him, but there was also that considerate, like, this is one of the first dark side things she does, is blow up the hand of one of the people that she got angry because she lost, and then finds out he's alive. And like there's almost no consideration for her about anything other than just following Bane. And like they try to portray it as like her big thing is that she doesn't want to be alone, with the conversation with Tomcat / Daravit towards the end, where you don't have to be alone anymore, I'll be with you, that kind of thing. But considering that she had that option before, she seemed to have, like, even if she couldn't just run away from Bane at that moment, there was no thought for her of that being a thing, and we never see any of that again. And then one of the first things Bane does is just, again, they've known each other for a couple days when they leave Rusan, and he tells her to make her way to Onderon. He just ditches her. So, like, she's just been introduced to this Sith cult, essentially, joins it willingly because she wants this kind of guardian figure, I guess. But then he abandons her as well. So if you're trying to set up the motivation as like she's with Bane because she has this fear of abandonment, and he was someone that offered that to her or offered a way away from that to her, then I don't know. There's just some stuff that doesn't really work out there, and it almost seems like an attempt to add depth there that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a more interesting approach to take with Xana is like she just doesn't read like a 10-year-old, you know what I mean? Like at the beginning where she's just like cruel and like acting out of fear and killing those Jedi, like that makes sense and I understand that.
Yeah.
Or even brief anger, but to have this sort of like permanent dark side aura like among you always doesn't really make sense. That's kind of why Anakin is more interesting, or Jason, because and now not everybody has to be a fallen Jedi, but even if she is a Sith, I would have liked to see her kind of more like her mind kind of dominated or, you know, changed by Bane, who kind of sensed her power. And then because it's like Bane's expecting to get a powerful apprentice who's already kind of
epic.
Who's already epic and into like the dark side, you know? Which is maybe a bit too much to ask.
Yeah, well, she kind of meets all that and hasn't, like, I guess she's been using the Force forever now through Daravit, but she's already super powerful, blowing up Jedi and blowing up other people and then shooting soldiers within day one of her training. So, like, learning very fast. Good job.
And giving her cousin her powers, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why like I posted Darth Bane as the biggest Mary Sue in Star Wars on Twitter. Got a lot of comments, that's all I'll say. I mean, a lot of people did agree. But yeah, what did you think of the new characters? We get Johan, who he kind of has an interesting plot, I guess, or an interesting plot arc. He starts off as he's Hoth's apprentice, and then he goes down and he kind of sees evidence of Bane in the aftermath of the 7th Battle of Ruusan, but Bane kind of successfully hides for 10 years, and then later he goes with the Jedi to confront Bane after having done some things in the meantime, like protecting the current Supreme Chancellor, or sorry, a former Supreme Chancellor, and then in the end he just gets killed, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's much more Jedi stuff that shows up in Dynasty of Evil, because all the Jedi characters are dead now. But I guess we kind of
should have left a message before they left. Like
they did. I think they did leave a message that they were going. to Tython.
Because the Jedi, right? The Jedi show up afterwards. Yeah.
Well, Xana was even talking about when she was dealing with her plan to kill off Caleb and Daravit, or make Daravit look like he was.
I forgot the Jedi came back.
Like she was saying that they would already be aware of the fact that Farfall and them went to Tython. So the Jedi are aware that there are Sith somewhere. Because I was thinking at the same kind of thing when that first I was like, did they just get on a ship and leave without telling anyone? Yeah. But
I thought the ending was pretty fun actually. Yeah. Like the way that Xana kind of gets around, like she ties up everything very nicely because Bane's still recovering. So we're skipping around a lot and it's kind of following the natural conversation. Sometimes when we do Tapcaf, we follow the plot. This time probably makes more sense to follow the discussion. But so Bane's been pretty much nearly killed in his battle with a bunch of Jedi because his Orbalisk armor has died and is killing him with it. And he's basically recovering under the tent of the healer, who we meet in the first book. And Xana basically, it's her cousin, right? She drives insane with her Force powers.
Yeah, it was Daravit / Tomcat.
Right, and then she kills. I forget to. And then doesn't she chop up?
She chops up Caleb, right? To make it look like Daravit did it. Left him with the lightsabers of the other Jedi, and basically made him seem like he butchered Farfalla, Saro, I think that's her name, Johan, and War. Like this random guy was all like I don't see how anyone bought that. I really don't.
Yeah.
Like, just dark side dangerous is the explanation we're given. It's like, no, this was literally your best lightsaber duelist, your best battle meditation dude, Farfalla, who's good at some shit, I'm sure, and Johan, who everyone acknowledges is kind of useless at most things.
He's like a diplomat.
Yeah. Whose only use in the book was to stop Xana from losing to Beefcake number 7. But
yeah, I gotta say I was kind of surprised though when Johan went down, because I guess I'd forgotten that after they do spend pretty much like maybe a fifth or a sixth of the book following him, and then he just gets capped. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Same with Farfalla, 'cause I knew Farfalla died, but still kind of surprising, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, it kind of means those plots end up not going many places, because like there was the interesting thing about like Johan trying to bring forward the legacy of Hoth and them and what direction the Jedi are going to take.
Yep.
But that kind of doesn't get resolved very much at all.
No, it doesn't at all.
And then they're all dead.
Yeah.
Like you could just as easily have had Farfalla turn up in that battle. We know him from last book. Without
Somehow
following
survive.
Johan.
Yeah.
Johan. But
yeah. Yeah, exactly. He could have been part of the second force or something. Like the one that shows up afterwards.
Well, even just not even have those parts of the plot where we follow Joan's story, and then have Farfalla still turn up in that first task force when someone brings him. But
right.
It just feels like there were a lot of elements to Joan stuff that wasn't about finding the Sith that ended up kind of going nowhere while still setting up what was possibly an interesting thread. So kind of losing that thread now with no real opportunity to organically pick it up is unfortunate, I guess.
Yeah, especially where, I don't know about you, but I really prefer the scenes where they're like in the greater galaxy mingling around. Like I liked when Xana infiltrated that radical group. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I liked the stuff with the Jedi Temple, and it will be a shame if we lose that. I haven't read book 3 for a very long time, so I don't really remember. But
because I think book 3 is more because like Xana and Bane split up. You've got Set Hearth. I think he's in that, and like it's Cognis as well, because Bane is training Cognis, and then Xana ends up killing Bane. So I think it's just split between the actual Sith next time. I don't think there's much else.
Just too bad, in my opinion, because those parts can get kind of boring. It was all right, I thought, in book 1, where Bane's an apprentice and he's got this big Sith kind of structure above him and he's working his way through it. I thought that was interesting, but where it's just a lot of hiding in the shadows and trying to make holocrons and stuff, for me, a little less compelling.
Yeah, like, does Bane ever have a good idea? That's another thing that kind of stuck out to me, where like his plans for how to take down the like the thing about setting up the organization of spies and stuff, that's good. Yeah. We got like a paragraph of that in a flashback of them on Tatooine meeting Amun. So points to Bane there. But
yeah, like the idea that this little separatist movement or whatever is going to take away heat from the Sith.
Yeah.
Like,
especially when they seem to be killing them off before they get any steam. Like, this is 4 guys in their mom's
on one
basement.
Planet. Yeah, exactly. It's like one planet of millions. It's like, they didn't successfully kill the former chancellor, another Chancellor Valorum, # corrupt republic. But yeah.
Well, because Bane's thing was that it'd be easier for the Sith to take over the galaxy with one republic. Because if you're counting the stars and they're all together, then I guess that's better than having everyone fractured and trying to unite it from that. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. It just seems like he's doing that because that's what it ends up having to be under Palpatine. And rather than trying to find an actual explanation for that, it's just this weird side thing that they end up doing. And it's kind of the same thing with his justification for who he kills and who he doesn't, like how he wants there to be rumors out there of a Sith, but he wants them to be from people that no one will believe.
Yeah.
because they're untrustworthy because reasons.
Yeah. I mean, having rumors to me doesn't make like, I don't know, just hide yourself. And that's like one of the things about Bane's armor. I wish they touched on it a bit, but like the whole idea of Darth Bane is he wants to operate completely from the shadows, and he's got this new armor on that makes it like he can't blend in. He's a walking crab person. Like, and they do mention that a bit. I forget who. I think Xana mentions it maybe when she's waiting for Keladin or whatever the Twi'lek's name is.
Yeah.
But I would have been more interested to see kind of how that works out, because that's part of the reason like Bane is like, yeah, the Sith should be manipulating and operating from the shadows and doing all this stuff.
Yeah, so let me get this super powerful armor that makes me super angry and evil, but I can't be seen in public ever again, so I do nothing for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not sure really how he sets up a lot of the operations and stuff, other than he pays the 1 moon, which seems like a thing anyone could do, but where did he get the money to do that? I don't know.
I think he gets some from
Cordis, but
from Cordis, yeah. I think so, yeah.
It was kind of weird having that time jump, because there's a 10-year time jump. You start on the same day of the end of Path of Destruction, so it's Bane and Xana going through Rusan, and then there is the 10-year time jump. So Xana is 9 years old.
Yeah, 9 or 10. I don't think they say specifically.
Yeah, and then she's like 19 or 20, 21 maybe.
Yeah.
And like the first scene we get, one of the first sentences we get after this 10-year time jump, where she was just a friggin' 10-year-old,
yeah,
is like, everyone wants to sleep with her, of course. Like every female character in this book, and there's been 2 of them so far.
Yeah.
It's like Githany, the whole thing is like sex is her weapon. It's like you can do that with female characters, but when every female character you have is that, it's like maybe you should think about
her
this. Her
greatest dark side power was her bust. Basically,
like every male character is described as 10'7", beefy, barrel chested, and both of the prominent female characters are just kind of that archetype.
It's like every time you think you think you get somebody tougher, like more physically imposing, it's like this guy was actually 8 feet tall, like the swordsman's apprentice. I thought he was a. So do you want to talk about that battle, because that is a big part of the book? I know
the duel on Tython.
Yeah, we're kind of jumping around a bit, but that battle is one that I remember reading that and thinking about the conversation we had last time. That battle is straight out of something like the Old Republic or KOTOR, because they've literally got a someone buffing the team.
Yeah,
they're like a support role, which is kind of cool, because you don't really see that very much in Star Wars, but that was interesting. And the fact that it was an Ithorian just feels right, because I can never imagine an Ithorian doing anything too active. I know there's that one. Yeah. And there was that one we saw in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
who
he shouted. That's a big thing in a lot of even like Star Wars RPGs. There's the bellowing Ithorians. In KOTOR, they do tend to be more like administrative assistants and stuff. Doctors.
Just giant mushrooms.
I get are they mushrooms?
No, I just that's what I called them as a kid, mushroom heads, because like their heads look like a sliced mushroom that you'd see on like a cartoon depiction of a pizza or something.
I don't know if I can co-sign that.
That's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
No. But like we usually see battle meditation as this broader scale thing where it's coordinating forces. So this it's more like that straight RPG style buff system. And I was kind of hoping that Xana, or what I was expecting was Xana's contribution in the battle was going to be like she can't beat the really strong, like the guy that she's fighting with, Johan. One of them's maybe Sero, but either way, she can't beat him. But then she notices the Ithorian over there, and I thought that would kind of be what she ends up doing, but then that just ends up like he ends up doing what he does to Bane, which I think works out better. But that was kind of my expectation for like the multiple pages the battle was going on. It was like, oh, so she's going to get just sort of forced back, and she's going to jump at the Authorian, and that's going to be kind of how she wins, and then Bane is going to just smack everyone else around. But it turns out to just have her kill everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I quite enjoyed the duel. I really like the setup too, where it spends like 10 minutes just like listing everyone's achievements. It's like, oh yeah, we've got the greatest duelist in history. We've got Farfalla. We've got, you know, all these characters. But like to me, the battle is kind of taken away by Bane's armor. It just doesn't make it interesting when you know that he can survive pretty much anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Johan is kind of portrayed as the incompetent one of the group, or not he's not incompetent. He's going up against. He's out of his water, or out of his depth.
Yeah, he's a diplomat.
Yeah, and he sees the thing with the hands not being covered, so he goes for it. He manages to slice Bane's tendon, and within like 30 seconds, Bane is less than that. Bane's hand has basically sewn itself back on.
Yeah, it's not super interesting.
Yeah.
But I do like I think you mentioned this too. I do kind of like the conclusion where he zaps himself to death almost. It's like a very, very Sith way to go. And once again, using the stasis field.
Did we get there was the fight where Xana brings her apprentice from Sereno with the other Sith assassins from the Umbara and Hanagar academies. I think it was Umbara specifically, but
yeah,
whichever.
Umbara and assassins, yeah.
Where they have the Force pikes and they end up trying to fight Bane, and he gets like the million volts of electricity from the Force pikes. Was there something in that hinted at the Orbilis kind of responding negatively to electricity? Because I think that would have been.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about that.
Because that's what ends up being their
weak
side.
Yeah, because I do think he like gets knocked to one knee or something, which for him is like a big deal when he gets hit by like 6 of them at once.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't remember that. That was an interesting battle, and that was kind of like the whole idea of Bane's armor is like it does feed his anger. Yeah. But like then he almost kills Xana because he gets like, you know, red-eyed and he can't even think properly.
Yeah.
Do you think that Xana really thought that her apprentice could help, or like was she really just, you know, doing what she said?
I think she was being honest. Like I think that was her intention to get the holocron knowledge, and because I don't think she might have expected with the help of the of all of them,
assassins.
maybe she could have won, but then she would have had to actually do something in the battle, which she very explicitly was not. And she was even surprised when Bane attacked her, because I guess she thought that Bane would pick up on that, and he was very dumb in this book. So
yeah. Well, that was like, to be fair, that was like Bane's worst nightmare. Was like he formed the rule of 2, so a bunch of weak Sith couldn't come together to take down a strong one, and that's like pretty much almost what happened here.
Yeah, and like the one kind of through line we get in the book is that Xana really does respect Bane, or understands that he has all this knowledge and power that she doesn't. So she's very that's kind of why we get the thing at the end where he's like, no, just kill me and leave. But she wants the network, she wants the extra knowledge he has. So I think her moving against him that early was definitely not her intention. I think she thought it would be so obvious that she wasn't, that even Bane would pick up on that when he's getting attacked by these 16 people, or 7. But
yeah, I do like how I forget his name. Hetton just like gets annihilated. He's like kind of been training, like he's been poking around the dark side, and then he's just like, no, you're kind of shit, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think Xana really just saw that guy. Like, she would never have thought of Hetton as what her Sith apprentice would be. I think it was really just like, look at this information repository you have. This is mine now. Thank you for loading it onto this data card for me.
Yeah. Then there was another fight too with I'm trying to remember. Oh, when Johan's trying to protect the Chancellor, he almost dies to just a not Force sensitive being, just a guy with a vibro blade, which I thought was kind of interesting because he really is out of practice. He's basically been protecting the ex-chancellor for a decade at this point.
Yeah.
His skills have really atrophied. And I do kind of like the explanation that, like, if you're being relentlessly assaulted, you can't just, use the Force as a get out of jail free card. It's like you need to concentrate.
You need to concentrate, have mollusks on you, and
well, like, and that's like the thing. Like, Bane could probably use the Force in that situation because he feeds off the anger, but Johan needs like he needs the calm and serenity and whatever else.
Yeah. And like even before then, he wasn't like he got assigned to be Valorum's bodyguard within a couple weeks of him getting his lightsaber. So his actual training with it would be kind of limited. Like,
yeah, and he even admits like he's hardly been practicing.
Yeah, they didn't send their best and brightest.
No, they didn't. And then he just basically yeets them both into the ocean, and it's
wow, it hit your neck instead of mine. Thanks, Force.
Yeah, and does nothing in the end. What did you I guess the other major combat section is when Bane is going into like Belaya Darzu's base. He fights all the
mecha beasts, techno beasts.
Yeah, techno beasts, the Sith monsters. Did you enjoy that part?
Yeah, I was kind of picturing the whole time that
that one image from the
no, that the techno beasts were also dancing to techno. Like that was actually what she used to turn them into the techno beasts.
Every
it's just
single
centuries
one has a beatbox.
Yeah. So I know you don't play League, but there's a character called Cho'Gath who has a skin where his back basically has these giant speakers on it, and he just plays music. And I was kind of picturing that, and I thought it was pretty epic.
It's like there's like two or three occasions where Bane would have died in this book had he not worn the armor. There was the he almost dies when he's fighting on those beasts, the Drexel. He would have probably died in the lightsaber duel because he takes lots of cuts, and then he gets the absolute mad lad takes a full mouth of the techno
Toxin?
beast. Yeah, like
multiple
I just imagine
times,
one of them just like spitting in his mouth. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that, like, we get the thing from him where he doesn't know if he should keep it because it ruins his concentration when he's trying to do the holocrons. And Xana kind of pushes him towards thing like, hey, maybe you should get rid of that because she's also kind of afraid.
She wants to kill him eventually.
Yeah, that she can't 1v1 him in Counter-Strike and win. But
Guardian, no stickies, let's go.
They kind of sleep on the fact that, like, maybe it's also making him lazy. Because he's just letting these things kind of happen because he knows he can take it. But when I'm kind of interested to see if in Dynasty of Evil, when he kind of has to go back to being like actually good at fighting instead of just like pure brute force because he can't be attacked back, which Xana comments on a bit in the Typhon
he just goes
battle.
Fully aggressive.
Yeah, because like in the Jedi don't have to worry about or aren't able to do that because they have to worry about like things like getting hit in a fight.
Getting cut, yeah.
And so I hope there is a bit on that where he has to kind of relearn and have some level of, not necessarily caution because that doesn't sound very Sithy, but at least like understand that he's not covered in impenetrable mollusks anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he was also being psyched out by the fact that he was assembling the holocron incorrectly. Because he thought that the things are screwing with him, but it turns out he just wasn't using the right technique.
He was using the capstone to do the wrong thing. I hate when that happens when I'm putting together my holocrons and I have all the right parts and I'm focusing on them properly, but the capstone just isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Wrong incantations. You didn't light the right candles.
The incense was burning wrong. So actually, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one kind of strange thing. Not strange, but it's always interesting to me how Star Wars handles like magic, like or Sith sorcery. Like for me, I just imagined like when I imagine the Force or someone using the Force, something like a hand gesture, for example, I see as they do that because it's easier for the Force user to visualize, pushing somebody and making it happen if they physically manifest that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we also see like Darth Vader. He does like actions. He does choke and force puller or whatever else without his hand. So like when you get to these like Sith sorcery like spells basically, and Xana does one as well when she like her mind break spell. I don't know how I feel about it having to be this big intricate thing. Like it makes sense for like night witches. Maybe they just don't understand that they can do it the other way, and because they believe they have to do it this way, maybe that's why. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, that was what I was going to bring up, where it's like usually in Star Wars or in other places, they'll talk about like force magics or magic, and it would just be a different view or a different orders kind of structure of how they interact with the force, like the Night Sisters, where Xana acts in a lot of situations like she's essentially
like the
a
white
Night
flow
Sister
or whatever.
Yeah, the white current.
White current, yeah.
The white flow was something else.
Well, white current's not much better.
No.
It's not better.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, where like this is one of the places that kind of combines it, where there is the force, and then the magic is it's a specific subset of the force rather than just being another name for the same thing. So like what Xana does with the nightmare force ability that she spec'd into when she hit level 6, I think. That's fundamentally different from Mind Trick. Yeah. And you have to make sure your mana pool is sufficient when you're getting into the fight, because she did run out of mana in that other one.
She was smart though, because she didn't use her force points until she got to Dantooine.
Yeah, because you unlock extra abilities, and there's some microtransaction stuff now with that. But
well, she didn't want to put things into like computer hacking or whatever, so she saved her skills and put them in wisdom, and then she also got to unlock the extra force powers. So pretty epic.
I thought it was kind of overpowered when she was talking about her lightsaber, and she gets to make a second attack each turn. It's kind of like monks. It's kind of bullshit where like they get OP and then
Oh my god.
And I think the Achani master, she spec'd into Sentinel, so I think she's a monk as well, because like Bane wasn't able to move past her without an attack of opportunity to get to war.
Jesus Christ.
We're getting deep into the D&D jokes here that you've never played. So.
Yeah, I'm starting to. I was just keeping it to Kodor, which I know uses the system, but like I was starting to fall asleep. Like I was looking up other things. I was checking my email, sending out tweets. Just applied for a new mortgage.
Wow, YouTube's really going that bad, eh?
Yeah. No, but I forget what I was gonna say. We'll come back to this when we do our D&D campaign. Star Wars.
Our Edge of the Empire
Tabletop.
one shot.
Yeah,
we will be doing that soon. I'm finally able to actually read the rule book and figure out how to use tabletop sim, but it's gonna be epic. I just got to get the time that works for you, Charlie, Mark, and Shaq all at the same time. Shaq's gonna be the one to wrangle.
I was gonna say Shaq's gonna be the hardest to get together there. I think me and Charlie will be pretty simple.
Yeah. But yeah, so we like the force magics, but we think it's weird how it's structured here. That's basically both of our takeaway there.
I did like the force insanity, like when she used it. I thought that was kind of cool. She just destroys his mind, and he's just like becomes a shell on the floor. It's like, fucking got him.
Yeah, like I like the way it was presented. Like I like basically everything about how it was used in the book. It's just I thought that Bane and Xana being the ones to present it like that was kind of strange that would be part of how their view of the Force is structured. And
I just imagine like Hermione, like Leviosa. It's like you've got to put your hand up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, A, B. Use Force insanity.
Yeah, like at least we get Bane saying like, you're probably going to be more of a sorcerer, and I don't know shit about that, so that's on you.
Good luck, LOL. Yeah, it's a cool power though, and it's like, what did he see? I wonder. It's like, do you think it's just like the primal, like just the fears that like every person has that like just don't make sense in the back of your mind? Just like, whatever you imagine goes bump in the night.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Cognus to get in here so we can just get a real abandonment of the rule of two 10 years after they make it. Because we actually
Yeah.
get some of the downsides of the rule of two in this book, or one of the main ones, compared to how the Jedi Order works, where it's like,
You
sure,
get
you
wiped out
are,
in one.
well, you get wiped out, but also, uh, like if they lost on Tython, they're fucked.
Yeah.
But if you have, like, when Bane is trying to do this research to find out how to remove the Orbalisks, they go to the Jedi
Mhm.
because there are like Scholar Jedi and the Fighty Jedi and the other Jedi. So sure, like
Shouty
individually, yeah, compared to other Sith Lords, maybe by not having the other Sith Lords, you're staying more powerful, but you're losing out on everything the Jedi Order is able to accomplish, or the Sith have in the past, by having people with different specialties rather than having Bane and Xana have to learn literally everything. Because you kind of get that as well with Bane saying like his specialty is going to be being big and beating people, and Xana is going to be the sorcerer type. But Bane doesn't know anything about sorcery, so how is he supposed to pass that knowledge on? Xana is going to have to go and learn about that herself. But then if Xana's apprentice is more of like, if Xana had trained like Darth Tenebris, or Tenebris's master, was like they're kind of the biotech. They're the ones that actually do the thing that Bane thinks the rule of two is going to be good for. Where they're kind of working.
I guess that's what the holocrons kind of come in to help, but
yeah,
like,
but then you still need to have that knowledge in the past. Like Bane is making an order that just has to stagnate. It's way too traditional. It's way too individualistic. There's no way it's going to work in the long term to any of their benefit, and it takes them 1,000 years to rule the galaxy for 20. So yeah,
Darth Bane is literally an incel, and like, it's just not working out for him. Like, because you're right. After all of that, like, the Jedi have spread themselves so far. Even when they get completely wiped out, they still come back. The Sith rule for a couple decades. It's epic for them during that time, I guess.
No, it's not. Look at Vader and Sidious. Is that who you want to be the epitome of your order, Captain Wrinkles? And
I think Sidious is having a good time. Vader, no, but I think Sidious is really enjoying himself.
Yeah, for a while.
Have you ever seen that man not having fun?
It's true.
Seriously, that's why Sidious is such a fun enemy, because he just loves how evil he is. Like that one scene where he's like throwing shit at Yoda. He's just fucking cackling. It's just like,
no, that's fair. I wish I had half as much fun as Sidious is having in almost every scene he's in.
Yeah, it's like even Return of the Jedi. He's like, right when Vader puts out his lightsaber to protect him from Luke, he's got this big shit-eating grin on his face. As Charlie would say, big Cheshire cat grin on his face. He's loving it, man.
That's fair. We should get him as a guest on the podcast sometime.
Ian McDermott, Palpatine, or Charlie?
Palpatine.
Okay.
Well, if Ian McDermott wants to come on, absolutely. But if we could get Palpatine on, see how he feels about Dynasty of Evil, he'd be a good get for us, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. Kyle Katarn afterwards would be cool, I think.
Yeah, well, we're already talking about Rusan, so we could...
Yeah, true.
So we could cover maybe how that goes from being like the place of the biggest battle in history to somewhere that no one actually knows the location of.
Well, yeah, I mean,
there's some
that's because that memorial was never built, isn't it?
That's true. It's why, like, if the memorial at Vimy Ridge wasn't there, no one would know, and like if there weren't D-Day memorials, then no one would know where Normandy is.
To be fair, it's been like 80 years, and most people probably don't know where Normandy is.
Well, I'm pretty sure armies that were involved have some records of what went on there, and it's only 10 times as long on the same planet, of course. But Rusan was pretty important, and
I mean,
we were going to have a statue there.
A lot of that you can write down to Palpatine purposefully wiping all that shit out, like when he became Emperor.
Well, wasn't the Lost Valley of the Jedi still lost before he became Emperor? Because that's why no one was able to go and free them all from their like 1,000-year torment.
I just think nobody felt like it, to be honest.
That's That's possible. Kyle was the first one like, hey.
It's like, have you
maybe we should
seen
do
that
something about
spirit
it.
bomb, dude? Shit's creepy as fuck.
We just don't go to Rusan anymore. Khan and Hoff
Yeah.
keep trying to talk to us, and we don't like them very much.
I do remember there's like a bunch of statues there, so I don't know who built that. I gotta, yeah, I mean, I've got to play Jedi Knight.
So
because-
Johan actually, well, now that Derevit wasn't there to stop the production, even though Johan's not alive anymore, the Senate already funded it. So, and then
Yeah, but he
Valor
was
went-
construction manager. Are they just gonna find a new person to
Yeah.
manage all these droids?
Yeah, they get.
to be fair,
it's a Jedi subclass.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah. Jedi Foreman. It does take level 11 before you can get into that class, but
Jedi Foreman. I actually did just I got Jedi Knight 1, Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight 1 working on my computer perfectly, and I'm like really excited to play through it. I just randomly like accidentally beat like 5 levels the other day. I was just like, I'll just run until I die. And like it was an old game. I mean, it's an old game, and those games are pretty hard. There's like a pretty big difficulty drop, I'd say, from even to Jedi Outcast, which is difficult on its own. But I was just like, I got through like 5 or 6 levels. And I was like, man, I'm really feeling it. So now I'm pumped to get all my other streams done so I can play it again. And release Lord Hoth and all the others who are trapped.
yeah, you released Lord Hoth, Lord Khan. No discrimination there.
Yeah, just they can all go.
What would you do if your name was Skier? Wouldn't that be very upsetting?
I mean, definitely a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
didn't talk about the actual spirit bomb itself. That was a pretty cool scene where they go up and it's just like, ugh. And then Darth Bane is just like, he goes up and he just like closes his eyes and just starts sighing happily.
yeah, it seems like less damage would have been done if they had gone other directions in that. Like maybe don't let the spirit bomb go off. Derevit had a good point there. Like even orbital bombardment would have done less damage. If you just shoot the Sith camp, you had a huge fleet in orbit and the Sith fleet was gone. So
Right, because that's like the whole idea is we got to kill them all at once because they're all
Yeah.
here right now. But just chill, dude. Just chill.
yeah, the thought bomb causes like nuclear winter every.
Yeah, it really fucked that plan up, didn't it?
Yeah, so like point precision orbital bombardment. You know the cave they're in. You were going there yourselves. Like maybe it's not as effective or is not as thorough as the thought bomb, but maybe have some security on the ships leaving the planet where you know the last Sith Lords are, which clearly there wasn't because Bane and then Xana just get out with no problem. Like Xana is on autopilot, doesn't know how to fly the ship, and they're expecting that ship to redock with their fleet, aren't they? And it just leaves. Like, oh, okay.
I mean, and that ends up causing a lot of shit because that's like whenever the Jedi Knight games need to make a bunch of Dark Jedi or whatever, they're like, they got the power for the reborn from the Valley of the Dark or the Valley of the Jedi. It's like, shit, man.
Yeah,
Like this has been a big problem for a while now.
Yeah, and no one ever does anything about it. Yoda, you had 900 years.
Now Marker Ragnos is back.
Yeah, everyone's favorite Sith Lord.
Great job. They should have brought Exarchun back.
Exarchun.
That would have been epic.
Yeah, why doesn't Bane go to Yavin? We just get a montage of him going to every old dead Sith Lord.
That would have been cool.
Like, these people weren't necessarily that successful at much. And Bane, you're just putting way too much stock in him. You're going to be disappointed, buddy. Like, come on.
Yeah, like even Revan, like he was epic for like a couple of years, but then like didn't really get that much done.
Yeah.
So,
but there's a whole book about Revan actually, and we're going to talk about him at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Are we going to do so? At some point, are we going to do like a video, an episode on like the stories of individual games? Because they kind of come up a lot. Like if we do like a KOTOR episode or.
I feel like I just recently replayed Rogue Squadron, for example, and you're going to, so we could talk about that. Like
that would probably be pretty cool.
or like we're always streaming stuff. Like if you wanted to stream Dark Forces 2 or something, like that would be a fun episode.
And then we
Be
could even have
inspired,
an
but-
episode talking about the story of Forces of Corruption's campaign.
Mhm.
Because the Xan
Let's not.
Consortium
I'd
factor,
rather
the
not.
Xan Consortium factors pretty heavily into stuff now. Like they show up in a lot of media.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy how long. If you go to their Wikipedia page, how many appearances they have? What is it? 3?
no, they have a good amount where stuff shows up
Do they? Okay.
in canon and legends. They appear in a bunch of source books now. Got some extra characters like Mr. Jared Sykes. You can't just talk. You put some respect on that name, Justin.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Jared.
Do you want to get into the rankings, then the questions?
Yes. Do you have the ranking sheet, or should
I
pull it
do
up?
not. I think last time you put Bane in A tier.
Yeah,
Did
this
you?
one's not an A for
And
me.
I put it in D.
All the way down to D.
I can't remember if I put it in C or D because I was thinking
I
at
remember
first
you
that
having the internal debate. Well, external debate.
Yeah.
Well, not a debate. You were talking about it with yourself.
and you.
Yeah. Okay. Debate. Well, I wasn't arguing back. I guess is my point.
Well, my thing was I didn't feel like there was any X-Wing book that I could put Darth Bane above. And while I enjoyed it, I didn't enjoy it more than any of the X-Wing books we've done. And even though I had like Krytos Trap relatively low, I think it was C for me, D for you.
Yeah.
Because for me, the D and F tiers were just Dark Apprentice in D and Champions of the Force
Yeah.
in F. Whereas you have Krytos and something else in D.
I don't have any Fs. I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus, where the hell is this one gonna go? Did you like this one more or less than the last
Less.
one? Oh man.
Not
So-
significantly less. Like it's kind of on the same plane for me. Like if I had it in C last time, then I'd probably put this one in D. If I had it in D
Mhm.
last time, I'd probably put this one in D still. It's D for me, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that low because I do still think it's well written. I don't like a lot of it. I think it's good enough at what it does. So for me, it's going to be a C. I think it's going to go, and for me, it'd be the lowest of the C's as well. Even though I know we're not really doing that,
Yeah. But just for context, like it's probably Bane and this would be high D's for me if that's where I ended up putting it, or low C. I'll probably, when we do the re-rankings, I'll probably have a more solid position for them once we've done the trilogy. So, because that might impact it a bit depending on how much I like Path of Destruction.
For me, it's the goddamn X-Wing books. Like I struggle with them because there's so many of them, and they all by now are like starting to blend together. It's hard for me to like, especially with especially the Wraith Squadron books. Also, I think I'm gonna redo the tier list into like an Excel spreadsheet or something.
Yeah, that would be much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's.
So you're giving them the D.
I'm probably keeping them high D, low C. You're given rule of two. I'm
just gonna say mid C, just mid C. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay. See, the thing is, it's not done in a vacuum. We have these other rankings that we've already done. So if we like it more or less than other stuff, we kind of have to keep that consistent. But as we do
when I
more
read Alphabet
books,
Squadron, I enjoy that so much more.
Yeah.
So like, it's not even close, or like,
Yeah, like comparing this to the Thrawn trilogy or Alphabet Squadron or Plagueis, it's like this is very clearly not something I enjoyed as much as those. Like I've recently been already back to wanting to reread Plagueis, and we just did that last year. Whereas I don't know that I'm going to reread Path of Destruction or Rule of Two.
No, I don't have any desire.
And we'll see if Dynasty of Evil is kind of there, but like almost everything else that we've done, I'll probably reread at some point, except for Dark Apprentice and Champions of the Force. I think I'm good on those for my lifetime. But
yeah, so like for me, the book that I'm most interested in seeing our ranking is the one we're covering next week. Because this
Chaos
is
Rising.
Yeah, it's a completely new. I've read the first maybe 10 pages of it, and it's very, very different.
Yeah.
Also, you know how I said like I do so whenever I get my review copy books in digital. We're talking about this with I think maybe even with this book, but I do my Control F to see if something's in the book or not. For this one, I looked up. It was Palpatine, Vong, Super Star Destroyer, and Star Destroyer. I think were the ones I looked up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
Guess you guys will have to find out next episode.
oh,
I'll say Vong did not make it.
well.
Oh, and Grisk. I looked up Grisk as well.
Did Grisk make it?
Do you really want to know?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll be what we do next week. We are back to Mr. Zahn.
And it's Mr. Zahn finally given some room to write, and it's a completely new story.
Pretty epic.
Some like 10 pages in, there's some hard like lore about the Chiss ascendancy that like more than we probably ever got in Legends.
Yeah. So yeah, we got some email questions since last episode. So we will cover some of those, and I guess we will also have, if there are any major questions related to Rule of Two in the chat, if you want to tag either Mr. at Eckhart's Ladder or myself at Corey's Datapad, we'll be able to see those and bring them up. Do you have the emails open, Mr. Ladder?
I'm trying to get them open now.
All right, I'll start us off with
It's trying to get me to add the account to Google. So
the first one here. So we got an email from John. We're just going to read like the general idea and the questions of the email. We did go through and read the full ones before, but just in the interest of time. So John says, hey, thanks for this gem of a podcast. You're welcome. Realize these books are far in the show's rear view, but he is mainly asking about how we feel looking back now at the references and stuff that the Thrawn trilogy in particular has to the movies, because at the time when we did those podcasts, we were kind of complaining about that as like everything just references back to like, oh, remember that time I tied my shoe like I did at Endor? But what John's asking is, even if they stick out like a sore thumb now, did they help you the first time you read them to kind of get a sense of what's going on and tie you back into the story?
I mean, I think we even had that discussion when we were reading it that like Star Wars was not what it is today when these books came out. So I understand the need or desire for those type of references.
Yeah.
They don't age as well because like of how crazy like the resurgence Star Wars has had since those days and everything else. But so they are kind of eye rolling, or they do make my eyes roll a bit when I read them now. But it's like, I can't hold that against Timothy Zahn. Like he was,
yeah, like
get people involved, engaged, in these news stories.
Like my kind of position at the time, I think, and I think I still mostly agree with myself on this, was that for some of the weaker Star Wars stories, it made more sense because they needed that bridge. But for stuff like the Thrawn trilogy or X-Wing, which do themselves feel very Star Warsy, or what you'd expect from a Star Wars story, I think it's kind of unnecessary. And that's what made them stick out as much as they did in that, because like we're already with you, dude. You don't need to keep doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was kind of my thing. And he also asked, do you have a copy of The Last Command that features a weird typo? Mine opens with the line, Wedge's boy Rose, instead of body. And maybe my original copy did. I really thought I had my original Thrawn trilogy copies after I moved, but I ended up having to buy some new copies a couple years back. And because like when I was moving, like when my parents lost the house, a bunch of boxes of books were like left around, and there are a few things that I still can't locate, so I don't know if I have them. Maybe I have that copy. I'll check if I'm ever able to find it. But
okay, so thank you very much for that email. Next up we have Steven, who asks, what did we think about the Jedi Strike Force getting killed off so unceremoniously? Especially Johan gets a lot of book time. Then on a related note, after Johan died, there's no one left who knew the Rule of Two. This is a question that I've seen online as well. So how did the Jedi know about this in the prequels? Because we do get a reference to the Rule of Two in Phantom Menace, because Yoda says always two there are, a master and an apprentice. I don't know what the lore reason is. I guess they just found out along the way.
Yeah, there's 1,000 years between this and the prequels, and we leave off even Rule of Two with the Jedi, with the Jedi definitively knowing that the Sith are still around. So there's a lot of time for them to learn a couple things, little bits and pieces along the
Well,
way.
at the end of the rule of 2, they think the Jedi or the Sith are dead, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Well, they think that from that encounter, but then like the idea is sort of that there's all these little inklings that they kind of leave and they find, and even if this trail ends up dead and they get away because of what Xana did here, how long that kind of holds up, where people think this one guy murdered their entire strike force, they might find out who he actually was, or someone could identify him as like, oh no, that's the guy that was in the library. Like there's a lot of ways that can kind of
arrogant though at the same time. But yeah, I think you are right. And I think we covered the other question about the unceremonious deaths. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
No, it's Rip Farfalla. You're a real one. I don't know.
This is an interesting one. If you could rank each of the main post-Endor Del Rey Star Wars series from best to worst, NJO, Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi, Dark Nest, what would your ranking be?
So Del Rey, so NJO on?
Yeah.
What would...
For
I
me,
think I know...
like...
Can I guess yours?
Yes.
Worst to best, I'll do. Dark Nest.
Yes.
So, you seem weirdly attached to Fate of the Jedi. Is Legacy of the Force...
I like it, but...
Is Legacy of the Force after
Dark
Nest?
Favorite.
Legacy of the Force... Oh, it's your favorite. So then...
Yeah, probably.
Fate of the Jedi, NJO, Legacy of the Force?
My ranking would probably be from best to worst. It's a Legacy of the Force and NJO are so different, and I haven't done a full read through of NJO, so I'm just gonna call them a tie. Then Fate of the Jedi, then Dark Nest. What about you?
Mine might actually be in chronological order. NJO, I think NJO to me is kind of my that's my favorite kind of era. And like Jason's story as a whole is what I really like.
Great.
And then so NJO, then Legacy of the Force, then Dark Nest, then Fate of the Jedi. So switching Legacy of the Force and Dark Nest chronologically. But
that
Fate
was
of the
from
Jedi,
Asher, by the way.
weird.
So thank you for the email. So you're not a big Fate of the Jedi guy.
Like whenever I try to think of stuff that happened in it, I just pictured like Noodly Abeloth. Maybe once I reread it, it'll stick with me more. But there's weird stuff, and then the overall plot wasn't something that I was.
I just feel like those books waste so much time because there's a lot of just like this family went to the zoo today, or like it could probably be 4 books.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so that was from Asher. Thank you very much. Anthony says he asked about humanizing big baddies like Vader and Kylo. But it feels like in the new Disney era Star Wars, and I agree with this, there has been an effort to humanize more of the traditionally faceless bad guys who were mostly as cannon fodder through books, comics, video games. I guess the example of that would be like the characters from Battlefront 2, or there's been plenty of other works in that era. What are your thoughts on giving these characters stories and delving into their motivations, and how well do you think that's been done?
I think it's definitely been done better than some of the... Like, it's been done more. I'm not going to say better because it's not something they were trying to do initially. Because when you get into, like, 90s media, especially, it was very Monster of the Week, but it was Warlord of the Week instead. Where there were a lot of shows, a lot of books, especially when you get into a series that's kind of establishing what it means to do this kind of thing, like Star Wars was. So emulating what you'd see in a lot of TV series that were coming out in similar frequency isn't really unexpected or a bad thing. Just there wasn't that same focus on developing the villains. It was just supposed to be this bad guy comes along, our heroes who we know in some capacity go and beat them, and the focus wasn't on the villains. But I think in the movies there was the focus on Vader and trying to make him a bit more humanized already, and then slowly that made its way more into the books into books in general that followed this kind of formula. And so I think it's definitely done more, if not necessarily better than before.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So thank you, Anthony, for that question, and Corey for answering that for both of us. Do you want to read Ryan's next?
Yeah. So Ryan has a totally legitimate suggestion, and he thanks us for letting him know about Isard's eyes and how they reflect the duality of her personality. Oh shit! Did you ever pick up on that?
No, I think I remember reading it, including maybe something in my notes. I had to go back and double check though. But no, I don't think I saw that.
Because they were brown. Both of her eyes were brown.
No, I think I remember them being different shades of fire, so red and orange maybe.
Right. Yeah, because they were a very close, similar color, but it wasn't exactly the same. You're right.
Yeah.
Once you get to NJO, you should totally get Captain Shaq to be your co-host. We have run the idea by Shaq of having him on the podcast, and he's up for it at some point. I think he said it's just coordination and figuring out what book he'd be able to come on for, because he doesn't read that many Star Wars books, so we wouldn't want to like drop him into NJO and be like, hey, backstory.
Yeah, here's 30 books you've got to read beforehand and strap in because we're doing 19 now.
Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully someday we'll get Shaq on. If not, we've got other stuff that he'll be on, some of the Squadron streams and stuff. So there will be Shaq with us in something, but we're not sure exactly what yet.
So the next question is from Joel, who asks whether the Sith would have been better off having a public face like Mas Amida as Chancellor while ruling from the shadows. And I think that may have been better, but it's just like, that's not what Palpatine wanted. Like, he just wanted to be like big nuts, plop him on the table. I'm Emperor. I've got power, etc.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it probably would have been better because it would have given them like, always better to have an extra layer of protection. But
yeah,
unless it's a, never mind. I'm not gonna.
No, do it.
I was gonna say don't double up on your condoms, but
I regret asking you to finish that sentence. But yeah, like I kind of talked about this in my video about the rule of two being kind of bad, and in the first Bane book, where like, yeah, if you want to go secrecy, stay with the secrecy thing and maybe do it a little bit better than you have been, but don't be like rule of two and then immediately take over the galaxy. There's still two of you. Didn't work out too well for them.
Yeah. The next one comes from Jack, who asks whether the Darth was known among the average citizen of the galaxy, because it seems like people in the galaxy don't really know what it means. And I don't know, that's like one of those like little details like that I can never keep track of, like when people know when Darth Vader was Anakin, all those things. It feels like it changes a bit. I'm gonna assume some people did, but most probably didn't understand the significance.
Well, they're thousands of years before. Let's just assume we kind of mean in the original trilogy or post-Endor prequel, that kind of time period where like thousands of years in the past, the Sith were a very common thing, a lot of Darths flying around, and it is kind of a title, and like even Jedi stuff for most of the galaxy is this obscure, weird order of monks that they don't engage with very much. The Force doesn't play a big part in their lives. A lot of people may not believe in it or haven't been exposed to it. So it's just like titles within a religious order of some kind. So imagine if you lived in a part of the world that was somehow not exposed to the Catholic Church, but you were aware of what it was and that it was a big deal in the past, and then you knew what the title of like Pope was, where maybe you understand that this is like the leader of that religious grouping, but you don't really know or care too much about the connotations. I think it's would be that kind of situation.
Yeah. Yep. The final question is another one from Justin. He says, "Hey, back again." Yes, he is. Do you think at any time after the rule of two was created that the two Sith got separated from each other? Believe they were dead and went on to each take on an apprentice. Interestingly, on that point, I don't think we really know a whole lot about that 1,000 years, really. No. I'd say the most we get is probably from Plagueis.
Well, there's the song. You've heard the song, right?
Which song is that?
You know Darth Bane and Xana and Cognis and Millennial, Ramage and Gayan and Gravid and Tenebris.
Tenebris's unknown master, who was
Unnamed
also a
Twi'lek.
Twi'lek.
Plagueis, the best Sith Lord.
That's good. Um, also, second, so Bane clearly ignored the possibility that if there are only two Siths, whether and this is a good point. If both Sith die, especially if it's just some bullshit like they die in space, like you're kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah, like this happens a lot, or this almost happens a lot. And for the first part, they don't even have to be separated. They all take friggin' apprentices and acolytes. Like it happens all the time. In the next book, they take Cognis and Setharth, and they're all still alive. And then you have Venomous. Like no one gives a fuck about the rule of two. It's just the rule of small amounts.
It's like how much can you bend it while still technically following it?
But like Bane and Xana could easily have both been killed on Tython. Bane and Xana could easily have been killed off doing other stuff. Plagueis is almost killed in the explosion when Tenebris dies, and I think Venomous is it Tenebris or no? I think it is. I think it's Tenebris.
Yeah, in the mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this happens a lot, and when the natural expected way for their relationship to end is one of them killing the other, but no one else is supposed to know they're both alive. Like when you have duels, you usually have a medic on hand standing and turning the other direction so that
what do they say about the winner of a knife fight is the one who dies out at the hospital instead of on the street?
Yeah, like it's not a safe profession. The fact that it lasted 1,000 years and they didn't just die out because they limited themselves to the two, like a shuttle malfunction, an explosion. Like there were so many ways for this order to not make it 1,000 years.
Plagueis gets almost assassinated, just barely protected by Palpatine. His jaw ripped off. Not good. So that's a great point. Third, unrelated to this book, what do you think would have been popular starfighters to put together into uglies during and immediately following the Clone Wars? Or do you think uglies were not really a thing until the Galactic Civil War? I mean, uglies were a thing forever. Just, if you had only got parts to build something, and I think anything that was in, mass production, like droid stuff, would have been probably thrown on another starfighter.
Yeah. People were putting shit together, like, people do that with cars now. You get the people who put like a truck box on a Honda Civic and it looks terrible, but they still do it for some reason. People would do that with capital ships. With just every combination, probably.
That's his next question. I'm trying to remember, are there any ugly capital ships? I know that there are some, like you often get mentions of capital ships being put together at different things. I can't think of any specific. What's that?
Starhawk.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's as close as we really get.
Yeah, I mean, like that CR-90 that Wraith Squadron uses is kind of a... But yeah, I know there are other occasions where they talk about ships like using parts from other ones, but I can't think of any specifically right now. If anyone can think of any in the chat, feel free to let us know. I think that's it, though. We haven't had too many questions related to the book. Are there any that you were spotting? I see one from... Cade says, what ships were in use by the Republic at this time? Is it pre-Ruusan Reformation post? This book takes place during and after the Ruusan before, during, and after the Ruusan Reformations.
Yeah, and they were still using the KOTOR era ships. Yeah. So there were some other new ones, but they were still using a lot of the ones that were like thousands of years old.
But yeah, Rebel 1 would be a good example of. It's kind of like an ugly. It's pretty much just a. I don't know if they intended it, but it looks like a. Providence with a
it's a Providence with Recusant
engines.
Yeah, I think it is. That is what it is, and then it's got the fins from something.
Yeah,
but they're just there to look cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm seeing too much about it, other than like stuff that's going to come up in the next book.
Yeah.
We haven't done Darksaber yet. That could be soon, but yeah, I think that's.
Loki says too, I will just say, the Darth Bane trilogy, both the written and audiobook voiced by Jonathan Davis, are true works of art. I will say the audiobook is really well done. Jonathan Davis does the narration for all three. He's one of the really, really good narrators. So if you guys want to listen to an audiobook or if you want to read these books, they are fully unabridged on Audible, which is kind of rare, and you can rent audiobooks from your library as well. They're pretty much my favorite way to listen to books, and I will be listening to Thrawn, Ascendancy, Chaos Rising, Star Wars Book 1 on audiobook as well. And it's like 14 hours long, so it's a bit longer. I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will be streaming some Burial Cart over on X2 in about 35 minutes at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to check that out, you can go to youtube.com/X2, search Beer and Mario Kart, and it will come up. Yeah, that's all I've got. Anything you want to end with, Corey?
No. Just do that thing.